You may have realized that being healthy feels different than it did in the past now that you're over 50. If you want to maximize your health potential but don't have time to read through overwhelming pages of Google links, this is the show for you. Welcome to Healthy Tips After 50. We love doing the research, finding solutions, talking to health experts, and learning what works and what doesn't. Now, your host. She spent the last 25 years dedicated to feeling her best and is here to share her best findings with you, Susan Rosen.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen. And today I have an old friend who I have not seen for a while, so this is going to be fun. And his name is Dr. Charles Lee. And Charles is going to tell us all about himself and how he has gotten to the point where he is in life, which is, he's been doing a hell of a lot, and I'm really excited to be hearing about it. So, Charles, over to you.
Well, thank you, Susan, and thank you for having me. I've been an ardent follower of your health tips after 50. And now that I've just touched 70, so I'm going to kind of just change the number from 5 to 7. And
I'm almost there. You're not much older than me.
Well, there you go. I mean, what a ride, what a life, and what a journey, And I want to congratulate you because I love your podcast. I love your topics. Thank you. It takes you through so many aspects of life that we take for granted. And even though I've been a doctor for the last 40 years, I've neglected one part of it, that is health. And, we always think that people think doctors don't get sick, but you'll be amazed that, especially for me, what life has been and what road I've taken when it comes to health. It's something that we neglect all the time. So once again, thank you for having me. And
my pleasure.
It's 11:05 a.m. on a Friday morning, and it will be 8:05 p.m. in California.
Yeah, it is.
Nice. Well, anyway, so this is my hospital. This is my clinic, and I've been in Glen Eagles. It's called Glen Eagles. And there was nothing else in life I could do except medicine. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a teacher. And I remember in school, he used to always put all these, forms to do engineering in UK and all that. And I just push it all away. But interestingly, it was the only branch that I wanted to get into and find the tree of life in it. And, being a creative guy, I've always had this creative mindset. And when I graduated as a surgeon, I decided to major in plastic surgery. And, and so a lot of, when patients come and see me, when they come and see me, they say, do you put plastic into the face? And I said, yeah, plenty of cornware, Tupperware, you name it. You can choose it. But plastic surgery or plastikos is the Greek word which means to really mold. And cosmetic or cosmetikos means to adore. So you mold something and then you step back and then you adore it. And that's the whole philosophy of plastic and cosmetic surgery. Yeah. So got my training in the United Kingdom from 3 Royal Colleges of Surgeons. And and I found myself during cleft lip surgery when I was dealing with children born with cleft problems. And it was so much of a reconstructive journey with them to see what they would look like 20, 30 years down the way.
Yeah, so, I bet.
And I'm seeing patients I did, Susan, 25 years ago. And they're entering into, I did them when they were 3-month-old babies. And now they're going into college, university and all that. It makes me feel young. Makes me feel young.
Well, and it makes you feel like you're here for a reason,
Well, yeah, that's true. But sometimes journey of life is not just professional, but
no, of course not.
Yes. And, and what I've gone through, I've
Mm,
always believed that, until you get to the top of the mountain, Susan,
mm.
once you cross over it, you'll see the other side a lot more better. But unfortunately, the other side of the mountain is when you get to 70.
If you're lucky. If
If
you're
you're
lucky, don't forget that
lucky,
part.
that's part
Yeah.
if you're lucky. I can shake hands. Well, that's been my trade for the last 30, 40 years. I'm in a place called Sabah, which is East Malaysia, and
Oh, okay.
also known as the Borneo Island, North Borneo.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I came here like 35 years ago to start the first department of plastic surgery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I stayed here ever since because it's a different moon, different sun, and the sunset here is beautiful. So I decided to stay on and crafted my life. And so I'm in the process of writing my memoir now,
All
uh,
right.
um, looking back through the lens of what it is to live a life,
Mm.
So there you go. So that's a bit of my my professional,
Uh-huh.
masquerading as an imposter.
Now, that's not true. That's not true.
But you know, when I look back, Susan, and we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, both of us are podcasters, and I want to
Yeah.
congratulate you for your journey in podcasting.
No, thank you.
It's
You too. Back at you.
such a joy, isn't it, to meet so many people along the way and interview and see their journey, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
I just get. I mean, yesterday I was talking to was it yesterday or 2 days ago, with an top class writer, a memoirist, who is in America,
Wow. Uh-huh.
Marion. Yeah, and it's amazing that you get so you see another facet of life. You see, as a
Mm.
doctor, the biggest, within inverted commas, handicap of being a doctor, if I can put it that way, is that we work in a closed loop system.
Okay.
In other words, you go to work, you come back, you go to work, you come back, and that's all it concerned for 40 years. Every conference I've been to is a medical conference. Every meeting that I've been to is a medical meeting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're in this closed loop, and it has its side effects. It has its, bad side to it. And so the
Mm-hmm.
mindset is very much fixed, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things. I mean, I may have been a consultant for the last, 20, 25, 30 years, 35
Mm-hmm.
years. But I have lost touch with everything else in life. That's the price
Okay.
you pay. It's called
Mm-hmm.
a flea mindset. They did this study where
Uh-huh.
they put these fleas into a bottle, Susan, and then they
Okay.
covered it. And after 3
Uh-huh.
days, they removed the cover, and the fleas were still jumping in the same place, even
Right.
their offsprings.
Yeah.
And so I tell my colleagues, and I said, you can be a doctor, but there's a price to pay because you just don't have the time or the aptitude to know what's happening around you. You're so
Mm-hmm.
focused. And the only non-medical conference or seminar that I've been to is how to develop a millionaire mindset.
Uh-huh. Okay.
All right. That was the first.
Interesting.
Interesting, because I thought to myself, what on earth has happened, But that's a price to pay. And it's only now,
Yeah.
over the last 2 years, I've taken what's called a sabbatical, where, my children are all
Good.
doctors, 3 of them. And I decided to move
Mm-hmm.
out and stay on my own so that I can just examine. Socrates said these words. He said, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Living. That's right.
So I decided to pause, press the stop button, and assess what on earth has happened. And it is there that I touched into this whole concept of mindfulness and what it is, because I never knew what it is to pay attention to the moment. I was always paying attention to my patients.
Yes.
All right.
Or just whatever was happening next, right? That's what people
Whatever's
get
happening.
fixated on.
Absolutely. Moment to moment, what's happening today. We've got children, how to put them through this, that, give them everything you've sold your life out to, but nothing has come back in to fill that void. And then you realize, oh my goodness, when I was touching you about a year ago, health
Yeah.
tips after 50. And I said, now she's telling me. I said, I wish I'd already passed it. So what am I going to do? Catch up? Play? But you realize that especially when you're a professional and you've had this closed loop system that you've been in. In fact, the whole healthcare service is in that closed loop system.
Sure. Yeah.
Medicine is open loop. Medicine is always on frontier. It's always making ventures ahead. But professionals within a healthcare system in any country is a closed loop. We're only concerned about what we're doing and what we're supposed to do within an administrative model. All right. But there's a price to pay. So I have lived my life very much on my own, alone, in the sense within inverted commas. Because there's just no time to interact with your colleagues or whatever. It's just work and back, the kind of thing. And I struggled through life. I mean, it was not easy at all. And that's why my memoir is titled "Discovering the Courage to Fail." You see, and know that you're not alone. Well, that's the other dimension of it. But we always talk about the courage to win. I mean, when you talk to your podcasters, when you talk to your guests, I don't think there's any coach that is coaching how to fail.
No, probably not. I don't have a lot of coaches on anyways. I do coaching, but I don't end up having
many of them
but
I'm sure guests. I'm sure just off the bat that I don't think there's any somebody who says, look, I'm a coach. What do you coach? How to fail? No. We all want to be successful in life. Isn't it?
Yeah. I think, interestingly enough, there are a few out there that do kind of come from that side, right? Because people get so obsessed with having to succeed that they don't, even if they do succeed, they don't notice it because they're so, like this with blinders on.
Yeah. And it's like a cliche that you have to fail in order to succeed. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And I think that, there's so many types of failures. But, you can say mistakes, you can say, omission and commission and acts of all sorts of stuff. But to really fail in life is where you have missed the mark, where you have an opportunity to do well. And you didn't have the effect of people around you to nurture you to succeed. You see, and I think that's the price. I mean, I'm talking about my own life. Growing up, I used to bring back my report cards, and my dad had to sign it, and there were all D's and E's and F's, in red, and when I think about, going back how many years, 60 years ago, it would have been great if he had said, now listen, this is all part of life. The reds will become blues, and you would have gone instead. All I used to hide behind a wall, Susan, to see. Yeah, at 6:30 in the morning when he comes down and has his tea, and hopefully that he will sign it so that I can take it back to school and give it,
Right.
And all I saw was the report card being thrown across the floor of the hall. Yeah, and I grew up with that, so there was always this, not good enough kind of feel. You feel like a failure in life, and it was really such a struggle, And today when people say you're a plastic surgeon, they think that, it has been a life of kusi doozy boozy buzzy,
Yeah, right.
Like budgerigars on a perch, that kind of stuff. Oh, it's cool, man. Yeah, but they don't know that there's another dimension to life and the cost of it. Yeah, sure. When you talk about, business and you talk about stuff like that and failure, they always say are stepping stones to success. But I've always said that success is not what you get, it's what you become.
Interesting.
And that is very important, because when I see people talking about leadership and they draw squares and circles with all those lines in it, and I say, well, let me talk to your wife or let me talk to your children, because there's so much bandied out in the marketplace about leadership leadership today that it's
Oh,
hard to
yes.
know the truth, you see. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel that we have to redefine failure.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like
Because
that.
when you redefine failure, only one word comes up with a capital A, and that is your attitude towards it. You
Mm-hmm.
see,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and once you get out of that fixed mindset, that's why I'm writing a book called also another one called Mindflow Ergonomics.
Oh,
Because
interesting. Okay.
I've been in this world of fixed mindset for as long as I know, 40 years,
Yeah.
fixed, closed loop.
Mm-hmm.
And so mind flow is where you're in a state of flow. You're always growing. You're always progressing. You're always learning.
That's right.
And the key to that is what I call creativity, because that to me, I hear a lot of people bandying it around as if it's a cliche word today, a buzzword, creativity. But I
Mm-hmm.
look at it as a currency. Just like if you go to Europe, they have a Eurozone and the euro
Right.
dollar can be used in any. So in the brain, for me, it's a currency, Susan. Creativity
Mm-hmm.
that interplays with all the different zones in the brain. And you use that
Mm.
creativity to come up with novel ideas that can be converted into something in the marketplace. You see,
Okay.
which is the birthplace of innovation. So there's so much
Uh-huh.
going on. And I feel that this is timely to assess our lives as senior people in the marketplace, to
Mm-hmm.
tell the young people growing up, entrepreneurs, that you need to redefine what failure is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just
Yeah.
making a mistake, because now with the whole coming in of this dimension of digital transformation, AI coming in and all that, people are losing jobs. So whether you
Oh,
are not
yeah.
braced for failure or not, it's coming. And so we need to really rethink
Yep.
and the place of it. And that is so important. So there you go. I think of, I remember my Form 6, which is higher school certificate,
Uh-huh.
just before you get into university. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I'll never forget the place, the date, the time where I was standing next to the phone waiting for my results, because
Oh, yeah.
that would get me into university, and I knew that I wanted to do medicine. And so my cousin was working in the education department, so I knew he would get the results even before the nation
Okay.
gets it. So I was
Uh-huh.
waiting for him, and then and the phone rings and he says, "Charlie," and I said, "Yeah, you failed."
Oh, no, he was kidding you, right?
No, it was true. And
Oh.
and I just stood there and I said, "Sorry, come again." And that's why when I talk to my trainees or doctors or interns, when you hear that voice and someone over the phone tells you you have failed and all
Mm.
your hopes and dreams get thrown
Mm.
off the rails,
Mm-hmm.
that is where you want to be, because it's from that
Mm-hmm.
part of broken glass that you start to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that
Well,
was
no, absolutely. And I think the other part of that too is that once that's happened, then there's no fear to do other things because you've already failed. So there isn't anything, you can't go further down. The only thing is just, out at the same level or higher.
That's right. And this is why, and you said it, you're pointed, absolutely pointed, Susan. But the point is that in life, there are so many facets to that failure, you see.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I think of relationships and I think of my children and all the stuff that has gone on, I just wish I could rewrite the books.
Man,
And
we all wish we could do that. We can't.
correct. And I want,
You
yeah,
can't, so
true.
let it go, okay?
Yeah, letting it go is one thing.
Mm.
Admitting to it is another, you see. Because by human nature, we have developed the brain as a wonderful way of editing and deleting failure. But the scars that have left, no plastic surgeon can try and heal them. In fact, my first chapter is called More Than Just Scars, because when patients walk in here and they got a scar, doctor, can you just can you just let this disappear? You know, they use the word disappear. And I say, yeah, the only thing I can disappear is you, you know, that kind of thing. But it's a telling when you are open and vulnerable and willing to talk about those moments where we all could rewrite the chapters. But the point is that we need to rewrite it for ourselves first. And I realized that, you see, that if you don't rewrite it yourself first, Susan, you take it to your grave, you know. And I think Maya Angelou said it best when she said, the greatest agony is a story untold. And when you do that, and I'm sure when you reflect on your life, and all of us do, we all want to be noted and successful, and you know, and be able to teach other people how to walk and how to live and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, for me, it's being honest with yourself, because truth can be so evasive, you know. So as human beings, it is our nature to edit it and forget it and let it go, like you say. Let it go. Letting go is one thing, but how not to let it happen again is another. And that takes humility and, you know.
No, that's true. I guess where I'm coming from with saying let it go is that if you hold on too tight to it, then you can't move on either.
Absolutely.
Right? So the thing about letting it go is to say, yes, I understand, and that happened, and now on to whatever's next, right?
True. Absolutely.
And if, you know, for me, the feeling that I have, because I've done some really stupid things in my life, believe me, is that at bottom line, I'm okay. You know, I mean, that's how we all are. We're all made the same way, and we're all okay, really. You know, it's our own thoughts that start thinking about how screwed up we are on this and how we should have done that, and you know, and
True.
it's all up here. It's not reality.
Absolutely. And I find that the only way you can free yourself is to write it, which I believe right now that it is the single greatest portal of self-discovery when you write it, because once you start writing about it, it sets you free, and you realize that, I mean, you know, I've been on my own now for 2 years, and it takes a while to go back to those areas and places where things didn't turn out very well, and an amount of trauma. But I write it, Susan, because it's my truth, you see, and nobody can take that away from you. So there you go. So there you go. So from a fixed mindset, I'm talking about Mindflow today. And the other word that I've coined with it is called ergonomics, Mindflow Ergonomics, which we use a lot in plastic surgery. How do I operate? How I operate, for example, some cases can take 8 hours, some can take 10 hours. And how do I still stay sane and still hold that in my hand? I'm standing up. And so ergonomics to me is the key. It's an engineered system. It's an ecosystem within you where you're able to use your energy, but at the same time, don't burn out. You see, and to me, that's really, really the key. Ergon meaning work, and nomics meaning no more. So the laws of how to work, energy conservation. And I believe that's the key to high performance today. Everybody wants to perform, but they burn out by the time they come to the end. I mean, that's how I felt recently, 2 years ago, you know, when I put my children through, and I realized I just needed to get out. You know, you want to run away from the system. You know what I mean? And that's really burning out. And I didn't know that. So there you go. Quite a journey. It
is. So tell me about your mindfulness that you're starting, the marketplace mindfulness.
Yeah. So what happened was, when I realized that I had reached a kind of a dead end, and I needed time for myself, because all my 3 children are doctors, and life had just gone like that. And I knew that I was coming close to 70. I just wanted to think, what's going on? That kind of question. What's going on?
Right.
In fact, 11 years ago, if I can take you back to the story about, and I was going to take my two boys to England for a holiday and that kind of thing. And I had put on some weight, which I've done now. And that's why your health tips are pretty cool. And the problem is whether we follow them. And so I was going up to England, and then I thought I'd just check my blood pressure was a bit wonky. And my cardiologist said, why don't you have a look at your heart? And I said, okay. And I'm flying off in 6 days, So they did an angiogram, and all the three vessels were gone.
Oh, no.
All three pipe systems all blocked up. And he said, well, you need open heart bypass surgery, period.
Yeah, right. And now, and not when you get back, but now.
That's right. 11 years ago. Thank God I didn't have a heart attack or anything. But this is a warning to everybody. You see that even though as doctors, even though as professionals, stress ate me up from the inside. The whole journey of life took a toll. And I didn't know that I was dying on the inside, you see. And I always tell people today, don't die before your death. One day when all our systems are winding down.
Yeah.
And that was, some people say it's a wake up call. I said, I still haven't woken up because I'm still doing the wrong things.
Well, that's a whole different conversation.
That is a totally different conversation. But anyway, I went for it. And my first, one of the first few, I was in ICU, which is really the title of the book. Okay. And, and I was wondering what on earth has happened lying in the intensive care unit, which I go and see my patients in. And there was I. And my daughter comes along and I said, take a picture. And she said, Daddy, look, you're all tubes coming on, wires coming on. What are you trying to do? And I said, no, I want to start a website. And she said, why? I said, no, it's called Heart Talk. And that was the birth of my podcast, Heart Talk. Because what happened was after that, I was having signs and symptoms. I wanted to commit suicide. I couldn't sleep. I was having insomnia. My mind was going berserk. And then I was Googling, how to treat insomnia and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized, Susan, I'm a surgeon, I'm a doctor, but I'm also a patient. All right. So,
and then that's what you were, as a patient.
Absolutely. So why Google when I can ask the consultants right on time with camera on?
That's what they're getting paid. That's what they're getting paid for.
So there you go. So, I remember growing up, there was a TV channel, a kind of a series called Have Gun Will Travel.
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
So this time I said, Have Camera Will Travel. And so everywhere I went with my conferences, I took my camera along and then looked up who's the cardiothoracic surgeon in that city. And then that's it. Come on, sit down there. Let's talk about it. And so one of my first clinical psychologists that I interviewed or had a conversation was in Sydney. I went for my conference there. Yeah, Claudia Rothar. And she said these words, she said, Charles, be kind to yourself.
Thank
and
you.
I looked at her and said, what on earth are you talking about? Should I go and have a glass of wine or what?
If necessary.
If necessary. And Susan, till today, those words have never left me because we don't know. I don't know how to be kind to myself. What does it mean? Order a McDonald's or what?
Everybody's got their own thing, right?
It's a whole world of being kind to yourself. In other words, when you go through a trials like this of health crisis, financial crisis, all that, it's all about you and me. It's about yourself. And I was picking up, I had nobody to help me. I just, after surgery, I had a pillow, and that was my best friend. All I could do was hug the pillow. Every time you cough, you got to hold that pillow.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And that was my love of my life, was my pillow. I'm going to write a book about my pillow. And
That's a good idea.
it's a good idea. I tell you, pillows don't hurt you. But,
No.
when I look back, Susan, mirrors
Mm.
do not lie and
Mm.
shadows never leave you.
Mm.
And I believe that when you're honest with yourself, and I see so many things, even till today, struggling to change some of our ways. And that's why it's all about the self. It's all about your mind, your mindset. And so what happened? I left, I came up and stayed on my own. And then while I was shaving and all that, I was listening to Spotify, and everybody was talking about mindset. I said, what, what is happening, You remember that I've had this closed loop system for nearly 40 years, not knowing, never heard of all these words before. And then suddenly I heard mindfulness. I said, where's my mind been all these years? That kind of thing, So I imagine that. I never heard the word before, mindfulness. I didn't know what on earth was it about. And so that opened the door, but it was more of a spirituality involved in it, you see, because I wanted to know, I was doing surgery with a neurosurgeon, and I was called in to do a scalp rotation flap, to close. He had taken out a part of the skull bone or something like that.
Okay.
And I was looking in over his shoulder, and he was there taking out a brain tumor the size of a golf ball.
Oh my God.
And then, so while he was working on it, I said, what's that? He said, oh, that's the brain tumor, Charles. And then I said, where's the mind? And he looked at me and said, what?
It's floating around inside.
It's whooshy. And it's interesting, Susan, and I'm sure you would agree. Brain I can hold. I'm trained. All right. Mind. So where everybody's talking about the mind, nobody can, you just don't know what's happening. They talk about the mind, body, soul connections. I said, hey, tell me where it is, So when I started to go into the depth of mindfulness, the spiritual side of it, spirituality part of it, I connected with 14 international speakers and authors across the world.
Oh, wow.
And I said, you people are writing books. It's about time you start talking about it. And
a lot of them have been talking about it for decades. I don't know where you've been.
I know. And well, that's why I said I was in a closed loop system.
Yeah.
But having said that, I decided to become the founder of the Asia Pacific Consultation on Marketplace Mindfulness. You see, you can talk about it, but at the same time, bringing minds together was my calling, you see, because I wanted to know what on earth is going on. So that led me to launch what's called APCOM. And I did it because I wanted to learn, you see.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a concept of mindfulness. But for me, I learned as the founder of this APCOM, Asia Pacific Consultation, I realized that paying attention to the moment, there's power in it.
That's right.
And I think that it's easy to talk about it, but live it.
Absolutely.
And that's a different score altogether. So when you challenge yourself, and for me, what happens because of the spiritual side of it, sanctification goes on in that moment. You become more pure in your mind, in your thinking. You're healthy. Exactly what you're doing. Healthy tips after 50.
Yeah.
But it's really every moment in time. What are we thinking? What are we eating? What are we breathing? What are we doing? Is it healthy? Is it good for us? So it's
an
easy
awareness.
to talk about. Yeah. And
it's awareness of everything.
Absolutely. It's a pursuit of awareness, self-awareness, thinking of what's happening at the moment. And it really breaks you free when you realize that, so I've always said that we are a product of our choices, not a byproduct of our responses. So when we choose the right, make the right choice, you're on the right score. So that's how it started. That's how it started. And we had the first one, the beginning of last year. And last year, right? Last year, 2022. And in fact, 21 years ago, I had a calling, and that again was a Nature Pacific consultation on discipleship, you see. So I've had those callings all through my life because, and the reason why I stepped out and did it is because I wanted to know. Yes.
Yeah.
Not somebody else. I was not going to give it to anybody else to do it. I wanted to know. And so when you are living on that kind of a level of initiative or creativity that you want to know more than what you knew yesterday, makes life interesting. And and that's how I found you. I wanted to know.
I was always here. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's only a matter of time how we meet one another. I mean, there are so many of our podcast, guests that we just meet them, and they've been there all the while. And so there you go. So those are the consultations I've done, and I'm working on my memoir, and I'm writing up about this Mindflow Ergonomics, which I think is a powerful ecosystem that we can develop because I talk about these 7 zones. Creative zones in the brain.
Okay.
And I never knew they were there. And it's only when I started to open up mindfulness and think about where the mind works. And it starts with creativity. So for me, all of us are outstanding intellectuals. The question is, how many of us want to become geniuses? When we talk about a genius, we always think of Einstein and all those kind of people.
Right.
I'm looking at a genius like you to think of how to do this podcast, and how to press this, how to do that. We've all got a mindset that we can explode with. And so I realized that having been in a closed loop system, I now come into a mind flow, which is open loop. And that anything goes if you've got your mind to it. And ergonomics is how do we conserve our energy in the marketplace so that we do not burn out. There are so many health professionals who are burning out, mentally exhausted. I mean, COVID had a good test of that. And we were frontliners and all these young interns working full time. They just got tired out. And so that's the problem of the healthcare system because it's all in a closed loop. And I always say this, that, Susan, when you think of the medical field, there are two faculties that I wish I'd studied before I did medicine. And one is psychology. All right. Because that would have been a very good setting for every doctor, psychology. And the second one is creative writing, how to write. Because at this stage in my life, I find that when you talk about mindfulness and the psychology and the cognitive thinking about the mind and the brain, we all have the brains to become doctors, but we don't have the brains of how to handle life. And, and to me, that itself is a huge dimension, So if we can,
absolutely. I mean, look at the history of person kind. I'm not even going to call it mankind, but I mean, for hundreds and hundreds of years, they keep having wars. They keep having all of these other things. If they were really conscious,
absolutely,
they wouldn't be doing that.
Absolutely. And that's why when they come to see me in plastic surgery as a plastic surgeon, they talk about anti-aging. And I've always said, listen, there's nothing to be against aging. There's no such thing as anti-aging. Aging for me is a side effect of living.
That's right. That's right. If you're not aging, you're dead.
If you're not living, you're not aging. I mean, period. Okay.
Well, that's right. Exactly.
So it's a side effect of living. So why don't you embrace it? So I tell my patients that. And so for the last 35 years in my practice, I market what is called smart aging. You see?
Very nice.
So the smartest way to anti-aging is smart aging. How do if I know that there are 30,000 odd skin cells that die every day, how do I keep 10,000 or 20,000 so that tomorrow I have more cells alive than dead? All right. And that's smart. That's what aesthetics is all about, So the stuff that I've seen, what I used and learned 35 years ago and today in my place, the amount of equipment, the technology, the
yeah.
biovitalization products that have come on. To me, it's like a world in a world, that kind of thing. And so when women come in here and I talk the whole philosophy about, like when you want to buy a bed, let me ask you, when you want to buy a bed, what do you look for?
Something that's comfortable and that I wouldn't wake up in the morning and have a backache.
All right. Okay. So when you say comfortable, what aspect of the bed are you looking at?
Not, I feel like Goldilocks, not too hard and not too soft.
So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? The mattress.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the same
when you said
thing.
Bed, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Well, the bed is all on the mattress. The mattress is part of the bed. So I asked them the very same question. And the reason why I use bed is because they'll say, it must be strong. The wood must be strong. They go into all the other aspects of the bed except the mattress. And I
don't care about the other stuff.
Exactly. So I tell them that's what I do. It's called matrixing. In other words, that as we age, the quality of the mattress gets withered away and, gets thinner and thinner.
Okay.
And so what I do is build that whole mattress up. So it's called matrixing by means of all sorts of treatment that we do here. And so when they realize that, it's all about, investing in the quality of life, the quality of your skin. Our lives are so loud that we don't hear our skin saying anything, you see, and when it's crying out. So I think these are aspects of life where we need to stop and listen to what the body is saying, because the body doesn't lie. And what is my skin telling me? And, so I think it's fascinating because these are aspects of life that I've learned that there's so much that we have today that we can age smart. It's easy to talk about it. I've been, you're the best person for me to ask you because I came out also to lose weight. And I was living by myself. And, we have what's called Grab here, where you just dial a number and the guy brings the food to you.
Oh, one of those things. Yeah. Okay.
One of those things. So I tell you, that's malignant because it's so easy to suddenly go hungry at 11 o'clock at night and ding, call and the guy brings the food.
Not at my house.
And the word that is missing is discipline because I'm living alone, you see. So I don't have Susan Rosen next to me to tell me now. Okay. And so I lost 10 kgs.
Okay.
That's about 25 pounds or something like that. In the course of about 3, 4, 5 months.
That's
but I put them back. I put it all back within 6 weeks. It was called emotional eating, emotional buying.
Yep.
My mind was playing havoc. And then I'll go and listen to healthy tips after 50. And I say, Susan, change the number. Change the number. Healthy tips after 70. Tell me what to do, Susan.
It's the same stuff. It doesn't, it's no different.
I know. And I wish somebody will come up and say, healthy tips for a mind after 50 and a mind after 70, because it's the mind that plays havoc. And, it's nothing like, I'm going to have a nice steak today or go dry. But there you go. I mean, so many things have been happening in this life for me.
Sounds like it.
And I just am so excited that I'm still able to work, still operating. And then I've got 2 lovely girls who keep the place alive. I'm in the process. I'm in the process of writing this book called ICU.
That's going to be very exciting.
And I put it into a book like this, even though I've only got 2-3 pages of it writing. But like any surgeon, you like to see the complete product before you start, you see. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So that gives me an insight. It's just like, like I said about cleft children, and I would draw a picture of what the child would look like and the lip would look like as a complete product. And, so there you go. So it's exciting. And that's about what's happening to the moment.
Well, that's good. It sounds like life is treating you well, other than the extra pounds, but you could take care of that yourself.
I tell you something, writing has taken me back to those days that were so real. And by writing about it, and bringing it out for me is a big healer. Yeah, I really feel set free.
Yes.
To
Isn't
the
it incredible?
trauma,
Yeah.
the trauma of growing up and my own dad and what happened, and it's horrible. And then I realized, Susan, that I was doing the same thing on my own children, you see, and without knowing, because I was hurt so badly that I wanted to protect them so much, at the same time hurting them in the process. You know what I'm trying to say? And that's what I'm writing about. And I feel that you just wish that life was, when people say about life treating you better, it's all about you and me at the end of the day. And
life doesn't do it.
Life doesn't do it. It's your thinking and your mindset and how you use everything.
That's right. That's right. And the only one who can change your thoughts are you.
Correct. So how's your podcasting and all been going on? I mean, talking to everybody and different people with different flows.
No, I love it. I love it. It's wonderful. This is my second one today. I got 5 scheduled for next week. So
okay.
Yeah. So they're all lined up. I only put one out a week. So,
fantastic.
It takes a while. Yeah.
It takes a while. And people don't realize it, the amount of work that goes into it. When I do
No, I was going to say, I kind of have a process,
Yeah, you have to.
So I can.
And I've got my girls with me, so I'll have all my papers all around me. And so when I'm talking, I get so involved, and I've got the flow going on. And so people wonder, this is natural for you, Charles. And I say, wait till you see the back scenes, what's going on here, I've got my girls are changing the slides or the sheets of paper. My flow.
There you go.
It's rock and roll, and behind the scenes. But when you look back, if I were to ask you, how has life treated you? How will you measure your life? Let me rephrase it. How will you measure your life?
That's interesting, because I've never really thought about it. It's never been important to me to measure my life. It's not something I think about. I don't know. I like helping people. I like talking to people.
Absolutely. I mean, that is self.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, it's not, I don't know. When I was younger, I was go, and I was working full time, and I was managing people, and, all of that kind of stuff. And then for numerous reasons, which I won't necessarily get into here, I got totally overwhelmed with life and just had, I don't want to say a breakdown, because it wasn't that. It was just like all of a sudden I was just overwhelmed, and
same page.
Things happened, and my mom passed away, and I got laid off, and all within a month, and it was just like, I just kind of stopped for a while.
Yeah.
Kind of stepped out of life.
This is, I mean, I've been on that page. I know what it is, like as if the whole ceiling had crashed down, and suddenly you're left with it. You can't pick up the pieces. You don't know what on earth has happened, But it's very true. And I think what you're saying is that you're changing lives through your podcasting, because you'll be amazed that every post that goes out, somebody is listening, and that person will make a change. So sometimes when we measure our lives, we can't measure it in a way that we think we can visibly see, but it's happening on the other side. And then I believe that, having done my Asia Pacific consultations, and nearly 3,000, 4,000 people have signed up.
Wow.
All these, and all these things that have happened over the years. And when I look at my failures, I see the lives that have been changed, and I call that winners, because it's just the audience of one person that can make your life worth its due.
Yeah. Oh no, exactly. Exactly. And that's why I've started coaching people, and just to help other women going through the same thing I went through. It's kind of
nothing
endemic
like having,
to women.
Yeah. No. It's nothing like having someone hold your hand and walk with you. I never had that wonderful experience for the last 40 years. There's not one person I would call a friend, nothing to be proud about, but it's just that whole closed loop system of living as a doctor within that sphere of family and work and all that. And now I feel I've broken free and trying to see the amount of damage done, collateral damage done while living. It's like a cluster bomb has just gone off, and I say, wow, I didn't know all this happened, And but anyway, at the end of the day, it's a life well,
Well, and you see it all, and you understand it, and that's what's most important.
And it's lovely to have you, known you, and had a podcast with you and had a session with you, just to be able to share this part of my life with you. And so, thank you for listening to it.
Well, thank you. It has always been interesting to have time to talk to you. So, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And I better wrap this up, because we have gone longer than I usually do with people. So there you go. See, you're special.
And you're special for listening too. So thank you. Well, thank you very much, Susan. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, it's my pleasure. And I'm going to end this, even though it's appropriate, but it's not exactly appropriate, but I have to say it anyways, that neither of us are doctors, even though you are. And this is not to be seen as medical advice. And with that, I will say that I will be seeing everybody next week.
This has been Healthy Tips After 50 with Susan Rosen. To stay on the cutting edge of the most effective health strategies, subscribe to this podcast and let us know what you thought of the show with a comment or like on iTunes. Visit healthytipsafter50.com for this episode's show notes, more resources, and free offers.